Have you ever felt uncomfortable in a heated exchange? I'm in this luxury car dealership, and management has agreed to give me a focus group as part of my assessment of their customer experience. I love focus groups. So I'm in a room with 6 of their superstars and 6 of their disengaged. Folks who run the gamut between, let me just do my job and go home, and I fantasize daily about setting this place on fire. Now, understandably, these groups can be a little slow to open up. So if I want to get to the good stuff, typically I have to warm up the room a little bit. Not on this day. About 5 minutes into, hey, what's great about working here? My fantasy arsonist, I'll call him Anthony, bangs his fist on the table, stands and says, "Oh, for the love of God, can we just cut to the chase?" Everybody looked at Anthony. Then they looked at me. And I, despite being just as startled as the rest of them, calmly sauntered over, rested one butt cheek on the table in front of him, and with my best, just here chilling with you vibe, said, "Anthony, thanks for speaking up. I would love to cut to the chase. Please, bring it." And boy, did he. After what I'm sure felt like an eternity to some, Anthony poured out his frustration in a loud voice with wild gesticulations and even pacing. When it was over, the room was still and tense, except for the uncomfortable shifting and shuffling that accompanies people trying to decide, are they for or against? Me, I was all in. Anthony's observations filled up my whiteboard with gold. Because of him, I now had an understanding of where the communication breakdowns were at this business. So, why was it that to management, Anthony was part of their customer experience problem, when in fact, he was probably their best source for solutions? After helping more than 10,000 people in dozens of international companies do things like create customer happiness and retain top talent and lead through change, I can tell you this: when people get reactive, we stop listening. The problem is the uncertainty, the out-of-controlness of it. It makes us feel uncomfortable, vulnerable, and unsafe. We start looking for the exits or getting defensive. And then before you know it, instead of responding to a human being in suffering, we begin reacting from our judgments about them. Instead of seeking to relieve their discomfort, the focus shifts to relieving our own. Daniel Goleman coined this experience emotional hijacking. And here's the danger. When we're under the influence of an emotional hijacking, we decide things and we do things. And that's how the garbage in our minds becomes the garbage in our lives. But here's the good news. In an emotional hijacking, guess who's flying the plane? We are. And that means we can course correct if we know how. So, to help you do just that, I'm going to give you a mnemonic device. Be the water, not the rock. Being the water is about removing the resistance in the situation by removing the resistance in yourself first. Now, being the water begins with understanding a well-researched cognitive bias called the fundamental attribution error, or FAE for short. The fundamental attribution error is our tendency to attribute another person's actions to their character instead of the situation. If you've ever thought, "I'd never act like that," you have probably committed the fundamental attribution error. Because here's the thing, without that person's exact mindset and lived experiences, we can't possibly know what would we do in that moment in their shoes. And then we have a tendency to summarize each other based on the 5 minutes we spent together. The minute the mind goes, "Oh, you're one of them," the walls go up and all other possibilities go out the window. I wouldn't want to be judged on my least flattering 5, would you? So I didn't judge Anthony on his. You see, a year ago when Anthony joined this organization, he was all high hopes and good intentions. But then came the rocks in his river. Anthony was hired to replace his sister when she got deployed. First rock, constant comparison. Second rock, Anthony's training lacked clarity and accountability, and it didn't accommodate his learning style. So despite his best of intentions, Anthony kept falling short in the eyes of management. Third rock. None of Anthony's suggestions for how to make improvements were even considered. Because to most people, he was just that guy, you know, the one that's always pointing out what's wrong. By the time I got there, Anthony's least unflattering 5 and all the mischaracterizations that followed had pointed him into a very lonely corner. And I see it all the time in organizations, in families, even in romantic partnerships. Rock after rock after rock, until boom. And then more judgment. And the message, lost in translation. Instead, imagine validating the distress of an angry customer by saying, I can hear how distressed you are. Anyone in your situation might feel that way. Instead of, calm down, which never results in actual calm. Or instead of demanding of our frustrated partner, lower your voice, we instead created psychological safety by saying, what you have to say is important, and I don't want to miss anything. Can I ask you to explain it to me with a little less volume, please? One incites while the other invites. Can you feel the difference? Yeah. This is being the water, observing our judgments yet flowing around them, flexing our listening to be able to hear for what's creating the rub, choosing our words to say, I'm in this with you, and then helping. Now, beyond the obvious benefits like happy, loyal customers bragging about your exceptional customer service, or having your business considered one of those great places to work, meltdowns are money. See, there are messages in meltdowns pointing to some of solutions to your company's most expensive problems. And for me, it's even bigger than that. See, I dream of a world with less judgment and more curiosity, less focus on what's wrong, and more genuine desire to understand what's happening. I don't care about sides. I care about solutions. And if that resonates with you, then I hope you'll join me. Together, let's all start being the water and pass it along. Just imagine what may be possible for all of us.